Oh, talk to me, Jezebel. Speak through me, Jezebel. Talk to me, Jezebel. Speak through me, Jezebel. Before I started recording this is what I was saying, and I was moving my root chakra and sacral chakra, and moving my sacrum, because I know that the power flows up and the knowledge and the wisdom flows up and out through there. Welcome to Alcheminity, because turning pain into power is sexy. If you're here, it's because you're a member here on Patreon. Also, if you're listening to a portion of this, you are a subscriber on YouTube. For my YouTube subscribers, you will get a portion of this message. And for the rest, join us over on Patreon. Our colony is expanding there. Over on Patreon, we are this inner sacred sanctuary. So you evolve, and you're ready to evolve when you come over to Patreon. This is not the final portion of part 1 of our Sacred Sex Goddess series. We ended off with Medusa in our last episode, and now we are moving on to Jezebel. Jezebel, do you really want to know? She says. That Sade song rings over and over in my head whenever I am being channeled through by Jezebel. So again, we are on part 1, the history of the sacred sex goddess. We have gone through Katesh, Aphrodite, Medusa, and now we are on Jezebel. Now, I didn't know exactly where to begin with this, because there's so much wisdom and knowledge, ancient wisdom that's coming through about Jezebel. As we usually do, I'm going to read from what's in front of me. I'll post some of the written parts on this episode, and then obviously the rest is here for your listening pleasures. So again, I didn't know where to begin, but where I felt most guided to begin is with my book, Activate: Unorthodox Philosophies that Explore Anxiety, Depression, and Suicidal Thoughts as Symptoms of Suppressed Superpower. You can get your copy on Amazon in paperback or ebook. I don't have any physical copies on hand anymore. I will let y'all know when I do. So I'm being guided to start there. And we are in this is in chapter 2, Mental Disorders and Sexual Trauma. And on page 43 is where I titled Jezebel Speaks. And this was a channeled message. And so I'm going to start there, and then we're going to dive on in. Welcome into the inner sacred sanctuary. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for trusting me to bring this ancient wisdom and insight to you that helps you to activate in your power, helps you to activate in your purpose, and helps you to activate your pussy. POOS-E. This is what this is for. It's for us to be activated in our pussies so that we can be activated in our missions and our purposes and our beauty and our magnetism and our spiritual gifts and abilities. We can't activate any of our talents, our skills, or our beauty or our purpose unless we activate our pussies. That's it in a nutshell. Let's get started. If you have your copy of Activate, go ahead and open it up to page 44, chapter 2, Mental Disorders and Sexual Trauma. And I'm going to begin halfway down the page. Here we go. So one evening, I was in meditation at my altar in my bedroom, and the song Jezebel by singer-songwriter Sade kept playing on repeat in my head. Jezebel. All I could do was continue singing the beginning words of Jezebel, do you really want to know? She says, Jezebel, do you really want to know? She says. She says, but when she knew to walk, right? You can't blame her for her beauty. She would win with her hands down. When she entered any room, honey, all eyes were on her. I got to pull up the lyrics. I got to pull up the lyrics so I can read that line exactly to y'all. But Jezebel, her story was so misunderstood, and who she was, I say who she that resonates for many of you who Jezebel is channeling through. Her story is so powerful, and so we're just going to dive in. I'm going to continue to read from my book, Activate, but I just got to read that line one more time. It says, "But when she knew how to walk, she knew how to bring the house down. Can't blame her for her beauty. She wins with her hands down." Woo! When I think of the name Jezebel, when I was walking around my living room, I got my candles lit, my lights are off. I got my ring light on, but every other light in my apartment is off. And I'm walking around and I'm like, Jezebel, speak to me. Jezebel, speak through me. And I'm saying Jezebel, 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 to open up the channels for communication. And all I hear is Bell, Jezebel, beauty. Bella means beauty, right? We think of Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Her name was what? Belle, which was short for Bella, which meant beauty. So Sade says, but when she knew how to walk, she knew how to bring the house down. Just by her movement. Remember, I talk about all the time that people can experience the power of your pussy by the way that you walk, by the way that you sound through your voice, whether you're a speaker or a singer or poet, or maybe you do some sort of poetry, whatever. People can experience the power of your pussy through the way that you smell, the way that you walk, the way that you look, right? People can experience the power that you've activated and awakened and risen in yourself. And so Jezebel, Belle, this beautiful being, this beautiful woman, this princess, by the way, we're going to get into that in just a bit. Jezebel did not come from humble beginnings. She was born of royalty. She was a royal. She was a princess. Now, of course, her name got dragged through the mud throughout history and throughout time because people don't do their research, because people believe what they're told, and because religious doctrine taught us to believe that Jezebel was this whore, okay, was this woman who made her husband choose to turn away from God, which really wasn't the story. Jezebel has broke some things down for me, and I'm going to share that in just a bit, right? But she wasn't any of those things. She was a royal who was married into royalty, because that's what they did at those times, and what they still do at these times. Families and nations unite through marriages. I've spoke about this before. For many of you, many of your callings, many of your missions are this big. Many of your missions are this big. Many of you in this lifetime are being called, and I'm looking at my coconut water, and the word grace. I've been drinking these coconut waters for weeks, and I've never seen the word grace with a crown on top. Maybe somebody's listening to this. Maybe your name is Grace. But with grace, you are answering your calling and your missions, and you're going to walk with grace into these very, very, very powerful roles and purposes and missions that you're being called to fulfill. Many of your missions as the activated chosen alchemist, if you're here, you have big missions, okay? I don't attract people who don't have big missions. Alcheminity isn't a platform for people who don't have big ass callings, okay? So for many of you, a lot of your callings are going to be to marry into royalty. Because you're from royalty yourself, whether you were born with humble beginnings, whether your mom or your daddy was struggling growing up, okay, that doesn't matter, all right? The song says, Jezebel, she wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth. That's the song, that's modern day, right? But the true story of Jezebel is what she was. She was born, well, you're right, it wasn't silver, it was gold. But many of us who've had humble beginnings, some of your missions are to be married into certain prestigious families, because your work and your spiritual abilities will be needed in those families, and those families will have missions and purposes that you're supposed to be a part of. Many of you are going to be marrying into royalty. Let's get back to it. So as I was saying, going back to reading the excerpt from my book, all I could hear was the words, Jezebel, do you really want to know? Jezebel, do you really want to know? She says. So this line played over and over in my head. So much so that I had to grab my phone to listen to it and read along with the lyrics, which I just did for y'all, just the lyrics that point out to me. After I listened and cried, I called my mom to discuss what came to me during my meditation. My mom even cried and shared what was downloaded within her from her ancient self. We both laughed and cried from the understanding and overstanding that the spirit of Jezebel wanted her justice, and she wanted her true story to be told. Here we are. Jezebel, we are listening. I am listening. I am sharing your story. I'm sharing the truth that you want to come out. And there's others that have attempted to do the same in their own words. Here we are at Alcheminity doing the same thing. So she wants her true story to be told. So that night, with my candles lit and my heart wide open, I said out loud, yes, Jezebel, I really want to know. Because again, that part of the song kept saying, Jezebel, do you really want to know? She says. And I responded back. I said, yes, Jezebel, I really want to know. So the very next day, YouTube suggested a movie for me to watch. And the name of the movie, I bet you can't guess it, but it's probably easy to guess. It was called Jezebel. I'm telling you, literally the very next day, this YouTube movie was suggested to me. But it was spelled Jessabelle. It's an American supernatural horror film. It was made by Lionsgate. It was released November 7th, 2014. Okay. So I planned my day so that I could relax and think of nothing else but to sit and enjoy this movie. The movie was about a young white woman who grew up in Louisiana under the care of two well-established land and slave owners. Turns out that Jezebel wasn't really the daughter of her parents. She was adopted, and the real Jezebel was murdered at birth. Why? Because the mother slept with a local black man, got pregnant, and gave birth to a mixed baby. When the husband saw this, he killed the baby viciously. He then went out and adopted the white child and named her Jezebel. So the spirit of the real Jezebel, who happened to be a beautiful black female, wanted her life back. What came to me was, look at how we accept one and reject the other. Look at who we accept, what is considered the light, white, and reject the dark, black. Not just in race and culture throughout time, but as it relates to our inner worlds and spiritual senses. This movie opened up Pandora's box in a way and revealed to me that what we attempt to hide, disguise, suppress, and vilify into the darkness of culture, traditions, religion, and beliefs always comes back up to not only haunt us, but also to take their rightful place. In the case of this written work, haunting of the mind is a mental disorder brought on by the continuous split between that which is considered dark and that which is considered light. Now, I want to pause here because I was in the shower before deciding to do this part of our Sacred Sex Goddess series on Jezebel. And I was in the shower, and I don't know about y'all, but in the shower, it should. I can't say I don't know, but it should happen for you as well as an activated alchemist and chosen one. But water activates us. It awakens a lot of wisdom, and it unlocks a lot of wisdom. Water is obviously fluid, but it's also a channeling mechanism. And so when I'm in the shower, I get a lot of uploads and downloads. Do y'all too? Do y'all get uploads and downloads in the shower? In the swimming pool, in the ocean especially, of course, right? But also in the shower. And in the shower, just going back to how we, demonize and vilify one side, which is the dark and the black, and then glorify the other side, which is the light, the white, right? Jezebel revealed to me that, so her history, let me pull up here. Give me 1 second. So Jezebel was considered Phoenician, and they're saying that Phoenician was neither black nor white. They were their own sort of race. But as we all know, you're either on the lighter side or you're on the darker side, right? It is what it is. You can be different variations of light and you can be different variations of dark. So since we know that Phoenician was like somewhere in the Mediterranean. In the Mediterranean, their sun, right? Their sun, you're connected to the earth, you're connected to the sun, you're connected to the oceans and the waters. So in my presumption, Jezebel was on the tanner side. Okay, she was on maybe the tanner side of white or the lighter side of black. Either way, there was much more melanin in her skin than there was white. Okay, and so the story of Jezebel and demonizing, because when you think about like women in the biblical times, like Jezebel got drugged through the mud. You can't think of any other woman that got drugged through the mud like Jezebel. And why do y'all think that is? Because every other woman was praised, really was pretty much put on a pedestal. Okay? Like, if she was a follower of Christ, okay, she was put on a pedestal. If she was somehow indifferent or moved in her own way or was spiritual, she was something of the devil, right? And she was demonized and vilified. So when you think about these stories of like Esther or Mary or whoever else, these are women that were praised, so to speak. But if you notice, they weren't really all that praised. It's just that their story had a lighter side to it, right? It wasn't as heavy. But Esther's story was heavy too because her parents were killed. She went through some shit. The stories of women in the Bible they're all pretty horrible and graphic. And it seems like unless they got with a man, right, then they wouldn't be well off unless they married into something, unless they got with somebody, right? And we know that these come from very toxic patriarchal views. There's nothing wrong with patriarchy, but we know that these are very toxic patriarchal views of how women were written in biblical times. We know what religion was created to do, was created to, on one hand, I do believe religion has its place for people that need it. I feel like people need to believe in anything they need to believe in order to keep them from doing stupid shit. But we know why religion was created at that time was to keep people enslaved. And if you were a woman who was in her power, who was beautiful, you could walk into a room and make men fall, hitting the floor, their mouth dropping open, make them want to leave their wives, right? Even though you're not even trying to do that, you just showed up, right? Then you were considered something demonic and evil and wicked and was a witch and was sent from the devil. And the only reason why you were sent from the devil is because certain men didn't have control over their loins. They didn't have control over their sexual desires. They didn't have control over their animalistic desires. And so because they didn't have control of themselves, they blamed the woman for somehow taking the control from them, which it really wasn't true. Really, he just didn't know how to keep it in his pants. Now, this is an attack against men. This is not an attack against anyone, but this is highlighting the toxic patriarchal views that existed at that time. Okay? Yes, they still exist, but they're a little bit more covert than they were back then. Jezebel said their stupidity was much more on display than it is now. They were much more open with their stupidity than they are now. Okay, so let me keep reading from the book. Let me skip over to the channeled message that came to me in my book. So here we go. This was from worldhistory.com. For more than 2,000 years, Jezebel has been saddled with a reputation as the bad girl of the Bible, the wickedest of women. This ancient queen has been denounced as a murderer, prostitute, and enemy of God, and her name has been adopted for lingerie lines and World War II missiles alike. But just how depraved was Jezebel? In recent years, scholars have tried to reclaim the shadowy female figures whose tales are often only partially told in the Bible. Although she's been associated with seduction, depravity, and harlotry for centuries, a more accurate understanding of Jezebel emerges as one considers the possibility she was simply a woman who refused to submit to the religious beliefs and practices of her husband and his culture. The recent scholarship which has led to a better understanding of the civilization of Phoenicia, the role of women, and the struggle of the adherents of the Hebrew God Yahweh for dominance over the older faith of Canaanites, suggests a different and more favorable picture of Jezebel than the traditional understanding of her. The scholarly trend now is to consider the likely possibility she was a woman ahead of her time, married into a culture whose religious class saw her as a formidable threat. So just based on my research, again, Jezebel was a princess. She was married she was married off to a prince or a king in order to bring nations together. And the whole story is she introduced the idea of many gods as opposed to the Yahweh of one God. And so her position, her being in a position of power, her being beautiful and introducing a concept that actually set people free. Because when she married her husband, she married King Ahab, of Northern Kingdom of Israel. We already know people on the Tanner side, right? They say she persuades him to tolerate her alien faith, right? This just means that the people are saying that, basically that she persuaded him to believe in multiple gods instead of a one true God, the idea of a one true God. And so her presence threatened the Christian belief. And so you got a tan, melanin skinned woman, whether she's on the lighter side of dark or the darker side of light, she had some melanin in her skin. So here we coming up. You know who I'm thinking about right now? Ooh, I hear you, Jezebel. I'm hearing Meghan Markle. Princess Meghan. And her last name isn't Markle anymore, but she married Prince Harry, right? Hello? Jezebel is saying Meghan Markle, and there is a parallel here. Ooh, there's a parallel here. So the way that Meghan Markle's skin is, because Meghan Markle, her mama's black, black, all right? But the way that Meghan Markle's skin is, I think Jezebel is saying that that's what her skin was like. It was similar to that. So there's some tan there, right? There's some tan, but looking at Meghan, you'd be like, she's something. She ain't white, but she's something. Okay? When you see her mother, she's like, oh, okay. That was Jezebel. And so just like Meghan, she is a princess. Jezebel was also a princess. She was a princess before she married the king. Okay. For Meghan Markle, she was somebody before she married Prince Harry. She was on Suits, the TV show Suits, meaning this would be, and when princess to me, modern day would be, you have some status. Okay. People, you're powerful. You're in a position of power. You are activated in your power, your talents, your skills, abilities. People know who you are. Okay. You've made a name for yourself. That's why, people, you have some respect. People respect who you are. Like we're referred to as queens and goddesses, is because we've reached a certain level, an energetic level that makes us worthy to be praised, makes us worthy to be worshipped and respected, valued. We are considered high valued, right? So you don't have to be a actual princess on paper. She was a princess before she married Prince Harry, but she's officially a princess now, right? So I'm hearing Meghan Markle, but just like her, married into a royal family, and look at what she's done. They've said all kinds of shit about Meghan. This is the same thing they did with Jezebel. Jezebel says Meghan Markle's story is her story. Are y'all hearing me? The only thing between that time and this time is that, because they tried to take Meghan, they tried to kill her, she's had death threats. But the thing that what didn't exist at that time for women that exists now is a little bit more protection. Okay, we're talking bodyguards, men on foot and in cars and shit. Back then, she just walking out to get some water. There was no bodyguards. There was nobody protecting her, even though she was a princess and married a king and then she became a queen. She didn't have any protections around her. If she did, they would have never been able to get access to her, talking about Jezebel, and throw her from a fucking building. That would have never happened. Right? marrying into royalty, marrying into a family, just the way Jezebel did. And so when she married Prince Ahab, whatever, she changed his mind. And the way that she was able to change his mind was by helping him to activate. She helped to open his third eye to realizing there's more than one. There's always been more than one. There always will be more than one. There are many gods. There are many ways of living and being and believing. Everything exists and nothing can without its equal and as powerful opposite. Okay? So when she came into her husband's life, she showed him a whole new world. Dun, 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 dun. Right? She helped to enlighten him and open it. That's what a divine feminine energy does. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying harlotry type of women didn't exist at those times, especially they did. Of course, we know that. We know that. We know these hating ass bitches existed then. We know there was bitches who were throwing spell work around that existed then. We know that was the fakers were around then. We know that. We know that. Yes, that existed. But this isn't Jezebel's story. The true full story was not told, right? But we're telling it now. And so just like with Meghan, when she came into Prince Harry's life, what happened? She opened up his mind. She helped to activate him, which is what he was yearning for, which is what King Ahab, who Jezebel married, he was yearning for, because if you weren't ready for activation, it wouldn't have happened. If this wasn't a calling on your life, it wouldn't happen. So in Prince Harry's life, there was a calling for him to answer the calling, to activate and awaken and shift missions and purposes, come together with his divine counterpart to create missions and purposes. So when Meghan came into his life, she did what Jezebel did to Ahab. Help to enlighten them, activate their mind, awaken their third eye, so now they can see some shit. They're like, oh, because their mind was closed to the truth before. They weren't hip to the truth before. The ancient wisdom wasn't awakened or activated in them before. But when the divine feminine comes into his life, when you enter into your masculine's lives, for my divine feminines that are here, this is what your mission is going to be. You're going to help him activate. You're going to help open his mind. Hello? That is what the divine feminine energy is supposed to do. You help set him free. Many of your missions, many of your callings, many of you are going to be marrying into powerful, prestigious families. And you may be melanin. He's going to be from a whole different culture. He may be European. He may be, I don't know, East Islander. He may be something, but he will not be of black heritage. He won't. Many of you and your callings will be to marry outside of your race and outside of your religious beliefs too. If you're enjoying this and want a deeper dive, just say, I want it deep. And then become a member over on patreon.com/Alcheminity to listen to the rest of the Sacred Sex Goddess series on Jezebel. Again, become a member over on Patreon, and I will see y'all there. Make sure to like, make sure to share, make sure to subscribe, and get in the comment section if you haven't already. Shouts out to all the new subscribers. Thank you for being here. As you already know, I am your queen bee, Miss Burgess, if you're nasty. And I'll see y'all over on Patreon. Ciao for now. Mwah.